Hi, welcome to Soft Focus. We all have our favourite good, bad movies. Films that are terrible in every way, but we still think they're worth shouting about from the rooftops, or a small YouTube channel. Mutant Hunt is one of those films for me. I'll put it on when friends come round and are trying to enjoy a nice evening. I'll put it on to fall asleep to. I will put it on and wear it like a hat. I don't know why I like it. Why does anyone like anything? This is stupid. Stop asking questions. 700 votes on IMDb gave it an average rating of 3.7 out of 10 stars, and Rotten Tomatoes a scorching 12%. But numbers are numbers, and I have feelings about this film. Ones that we haven't invented words for yet. But at 77 minutes on initial release, you don't have much time to form your thoughts. The director, Tim Kincaid, also wrote it, and is most prolific for directing 73 gay pornos, and one softcore hetero one. To be fair, he did give directing regular movies a crack in the middle there for 4 years, which was enough to decide that it just wasn't for him. He did insert a scene of a guy fighting people in just his underpants in Mutant Hunt, because, well, that's just who he is. I do actually think these films he directed in the middle here are pretty good. Not as keen on She's Back, where Carrie Fisher nags her husband from beyond the grave. But since it was written by the guy who also wrote Combat Shock, they must have really lightened it up for mainstream cinema release. Anyway, I digress from the movie at hand. In the not too distant future of New York, a genetic scientist, Z, head of Inteltrex, has mobilised a small army of Delta 7 cyborgs, 5,000 of them. Originally built to do the most hazardous jobs such as customer service and dentistry, Z has bigger plans, and those plans don't make much sense. Naturally, people in the future are addicted to the exciting new narcotic, Euphoron, and Z discovered that giving these cyborgs drugs mutates them, somehow, giving them a psychosexual response to killing people. Why he wants to do this isn't clear, other than he's a very, very bad man. So he's been experimenting on these new Delta 7s behind the original inventor's back, and Haynes, who's the head of research at Inteltrex, isn't too happy his boss just trashed 3 of them and let the other 3 escape. He runs a very complex test on the firmware and finds the Euphoron, concluding that he must hire Matt Riker, a mercenary, to stop the escapees. Before he can get through, some of the other cyborgs are ordered to detain him for the illegal mutation of the Delta 7s. Personally, I can't tell which cyborgs are which because they're all wearing boiler suits and goofy wraparound sunglasses with horrendous haircuts. This is how everyone will be dressing in the future, I guess. Dr. Haynes' sister, Darla, is much too fast for the clunky murder dads to capture, so she makes her way to Riker's place herself, where he awkwardly stands around in his Y-fronts before one of my favourite fight scenes ever. I just feel the same way as Tim Kincaid about Rick Gianassi in his pants, I guess. Like any future bachelor, his flat is stark white walls decorated with harpoons, guns, swords, knives and crossbows, and a punching bag is hung near the bed, which, along with a chair and a dressing table, is the only furniture he has. This incredible bit of choreography has Riker handcuff one of the cyborgs to the radiator and his naked lady friend slapping another one on the bum. The handcuffed bloke uses his gadget arm to grab one of Riker's convenient machetes and hacks his hand off. And then Riker starts using all the weapons he can get, shooting the other lad in the back with a crossbow bolt, and then using a broken lamp to electrocute the other. Darla then explains to Riker the whole situation.
Who'd want to get robots high?
And they're also telepathic, so as long as you're hunting them, they'll be hunting you. One of the cyborgs waits for this explanation to end, before chucking the bird out the window and recommencing the awkward fight.
Easy come, easy go.
How can you say that?
Relax. He's a pleasure droid.
I'm dubious as to how tough these guys are myself, since they walk like they've at the back sleeping. As you can see, the acting is 10 out of 10. Rick seems to have forgotten his lines and has the most wooden delivery since the Native American in Creepshow 2. Fortunately, by 1996, his acting had come a long way.
You are just jealous because you cannot dance.
We established that these 2 remaining cyborgs are just too tough to take on alone, like he did just there. So Riker and Darla head to Club Inferno, which is like a strip club with a tarp on the walls. The only stripping the dancer does is take her mask off. This dancer is actually Elaine Elliott, private op, bounty hunter, dancer, and Riker enlists her to help him hunt mutants. She's been working on finding out where all the Euphoron is coming from and going to, but she spends most of her time dancing, so she's not getting anywhere. Well, someone in the club overheard this little plan and makes a call to Z. Domina is an ex-colleague and ex-girlfriend of Z's.
Z, how good to hear your voice. It's It's been such a long time.
I enlisted an expert to help me place her dialect.
There's barely enough euphoron for...
She's got a Flushing Queens accent. She's got the fucking Fran Drescher.
You really do talk like that. I would make this up.
And we find out that the Queen's accent hasn't gone extinct in the future, but her vocal fry is the most spectacular I've ever heard, even better than Fran Drescher's. She's pretty pissed that he's hoarding all the euphoron for his Delta 7s because she needs to put it in her ears, because that's how you take euphoron, like eardrops, and demands 50 kilos by tomorrow at her lab in exchange for the information, and that he should activate his cyborgs on Elaine. The cyborg, now looking like he shit his pants, slowly pursues Elaine, but since she hasn't shit her pants, she makes it to a payphone to call her protection up, who is kind of annoyed to be interrupted.
What? I'm eating.
He tracks her location using a knockoff version of the map from Escape from New York, and he tells her he'll be there in exactly 85 seconds, which gives him enough time to finish eating, throw the carton on the ground, and sprint with jet sound effects to Elaine's rescue. She's kicking him in the crotch while Felix just stands there watching, telling the cyborg to cut her some slack before he decides to do anything. Again, these fuckers are slow. It won't take much to just saunter out of the way, especially because he stopped to smash up some concrete and then walks off. Felix offers up some gadgets such as a tracker, something to find euphoron, and a little hex bug that explodes. And they leave Darla at Riker's place while they find those jelly heads. Only not really, because Riker goes off for a bonk with Elaine. After that, though, Riker finds Jellyhead Beta slowly harassing a guy while his girlfriend stands there until she has her head ripped off. This fight would be much better if Riker was in his underpants again, I think. He takes the copper cables out of him to sell for scrap too. Felix locates the other Borg, picking on a guy just taking out the trash, which involves lowering him slowly to the ground before he just ambles off. This cyborg gives up so easily at the first sign he might have to move faster than a stagger. Hydro is Domina's personal cyborg, a Delta 6, and he mostly stands around catching flies, but also asks Riker very politely to come with him. He doesn't even bother putting up a fight because then the story wouldn't work. Now cuffed in Domina's lab, she plants a bomb in his head, wanting to trade Darla for Z's euphoron, but he just elbows her in the face and he leaves again. Critical story there. Some punks decide to mug one of the cyborgs for his euphoron, and Felix kicks him in the face a bunch. This seems to be the cyborg's weakness, because all he does is comically wobble around. Stabbing him through the mouth with a big metal stick does the trick, and instead of thanking Felix for saving them from a fridge man with a drug addiction, they try to mug him. Riker springs upon them from above, and they all fuck off once he takes their big stick. Remember how they left Darla at Rick's? Remember how they also killed one of those cyborgs at Rick's? Well, Darla's showering reawakened the guy, who now looks way cooler for some reason. He pleads with her to help neutralise his killer impulse, which conveniently only activates every 6 hours. And he has until exactly 6:17 AM. Z tied up Dr. Haynes to a folding table with medical tubing to make him listen to his scheming, which is basically just to sell his modified euphoron and a Delta 7 as a package deal to terrorists and anyone else who would want to kill Bot. Elaine's tracker somehow showed her that a huge cache of euphoron is in a rectangle, being Z's warehouse. So she's there now, and Riker and Felix show up at the same time as the reconstituted cyborg because, he is slow. They make fun of it for a bit for feeling pain, of course, and then have to sit through the entire countdown of that explosive hex bug to pad out the film. Domina is pissed that all the euphoron, save her 6 ounces, has been blown up, and we see that she has created the very exciting Delta 8. Ooh. This is so exciting that she takes her clothes off and rubs herself on him while Hydra watches. So far, there's been a lot of dead air, a lot of standing around where the characters are waiting for something to happen just as much as the audience. The fights are just a slightly more animated way of standing around and waiting. Cybro discovers he can't be helped, so lifts Z and drops him on the floor, summoning some of his remaining Delta 7s. But that's not all. Domina and the Delta 8 have shown up, and he seems happy enough to get to slowly be bullied like all the others. Cybro warns them not to let the Delta 8 use his hand. It's glowing, and that's about it. Even the Delta 8 isn't sure what it's supposed to do, and is eventually shot by Darla. A wounded Z fires a laser at Paul, and despite being wholly unbothered by this, It prompts a line from Riker I'm sure they all thought would be a real knee slapper.
Now let's get out of here. I'm not gonna take a bad guy out when he's down. The hell I'm not.
I agree. While the team congratulate themselves with a nice walk towards the camera, one of the cyborgs is seen reassembling himself while a little girl watches and laughs. Must be around 6:17 AM, wouldn't you say? So, that's the story of Mutant Hunt, one of my favourite good bad movies. And it's one of those films that gets uploaded onto YouTube every so often, and I think you can probably still find it there now. But it's also been released on Blu-ray. Which is totally worth spending the money on. And I really hope you enjoyed watching me talk about it to you, because it's one of those films that I just genuinely really love. And I'd love to talk more about Tim Kincaid's other more acceptable films, less so the gay pornos. But I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Soft Focus. Please do let me know what you thought of it down below. I have a Patreon where I keep you guys updated on what's going on and what films or TV shows I'm going to talk about next, and you guys can vote on stuff and watch some behind the scenes and get your name in the credits as such. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.